from the earliest centuries, it was the witness of Christians honoring and respecting life, the life that was discarded by society, the children that were left to die, the elderly that were left to die. It was the Christians taking these infirmed, these abandoned in, that made the culture turn its head and say, there's something different about these Christians, and we are still called to do that today. Hi, we're Jackie and Bobby Angel with Ascension Presents, and today we're talking about respecting life in all stages. You may have heard this expression before, from womb to tomb, we're called to honor life. And we want to unpack that a little bit today. From womb to tomb, so from conception to death and all stages in between, God has willed that a human person, this amazing combination of body and soul, exist. And we're called to honor that in all stages. Anything that goes against that fifth commandment, thou shalt not kill, is something we're called to stand against.
We don't see humans, or people even who are different than us, we don't see them as animals, we don't see them as others. We see every person as someone who is unique and unrepeatable and has been made in the image and likeness of God. Even if that person looks different than us, even if that person disagrees with us, even if that person has done horrible, horrible things, we still see that person as someone who has been made in the image and likeness of God, and we are still called to love them. In fact, the Catechism, I think this is a beautiful part, because there's two parts that if you want to know more about this, because obviously we're not going to be able to go into all of it in an under 10-minute video, but two parts of the Catechism that are really good to look at are the fifth commandment, thou shalt not kill. Let's see, it starts in paragraph 2258 of the Catechism, and this talks about that human life is sacred. It talks about abortion, talks about defense, just war, intentional homicide. I mean, it talks about all these things, euthanasia, which I used to think was like youth in Asia.
Womp womp.
And I did you? And then the other part is in starting paragraph 1928 is in social justice, and it talks about like enduring social justice in our society, right? And I love this. In 1931, it says, respect for the human person proceeds by way of respect for the principle that everyone should look upon his neighbor as another self, above all bearing in mind his life and the means necessary for living it with dignity. So when we look at other people, the question is, how do we look at someone else? Do we actually see them as a family member? How we would treat ourselves? I mean, do unto others as you would have them do to you, right? That's how we should see every person, even if, I mean, here's the big the difference between Christians and non-Christians, the call to be a little Christ, is that we see people, even if they are murderers, and even if they are horrible people who have violated, we have the call, like Christ, to forgive and to love, that's how they will know that we are Christians, by our love, by our love. Like, that's how people will know we are Christian, is that if we love as Christ did, and this is one of the most difficult things to do. It says in Romans, it says that he died for, not just for the good people, but for the terrible people too. And that's me and you. By God's grace, we are faithful. By God's grace alone do we have virtue. So the call to respect somebody, human life from conception to natural death. Like, we have a right, people have a right to life, and people have a right to a natural death as well. So we are called to love from beginning to end and every stage in between.
In the year 2000, Pope John Paul II said that the first and most fundamental of all human rights is the right to life. And when this right is denied, all other rights are threatened. A society will be judged on the basis of how it treats its weakest members, and among the most vulnerable are surely the unborn and the dying.
I mean, that totally makes sense. If you can't even respect the weakest among us, the most vulnerable, which is a baby in the womb, the most innocent among us, then how in the world can you respect?
Yeah, all the other rights of
Flow from
freedom
that.
of speech, freedom of religion, the freedom to work, like all of those are moot if we don't have a right to exist. If the state or the government or whoever has the power says, you are not a person, you're not allowed to exist.
And even in our Constitution, as Americans, some of you are watching obviously aren't from the United States, but our Constitution, we have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But that life always comes first. And when you are living, obviously pro-lifers are accused of like, you just care about when the baby's in the womb, and then when it's out of the womb, it's like, no, that is not true. I look around our Catholic church and I look around our Catholic friends, and I can't even tell you the amount of friends that foster, adopt, those who are involved in like amazing ministries in every stage to help the poor, to help like, just even at our own church here, the things that they do to help those who are hungry, help those to find shelter. I mean, it's beautiful. So we're not just pro-life when the baby's in the womb and then, forget about him. No, forget about him. Like, read the catechism, read what the actual church teaches in the social justice section and in the life, the thou shalt not kill section. It is so beautiful because we are accused of so many things. And it's like, well, go back to what the church teaches. And it is absolutely so beautiful and a challenge that, again, we are called to love every single person as another self. And if you don't love yourself, then maybe think of them as your brother or sister. And if you don't love your brother and sister that much, like your own children. So whoever you love the most, that's how you should love every single person.
Also in the Catechism, this is paragraph number 2280. It says, "We are stewards, not owners of the life God has entrusted to us. It is not ours to dispose of." We are stewards, not owners of the life God has entrusted to us. It is not ours to dispose of. So abortion and euthanasia are kind of the opposite ends of the life spectrum, and the biggest ones that are worldwide are being pushed on.
It's just normal.
Yeah, push is being normal, push is something you have a right to end the life. And we as Catholics would absolutely say, no, you don't have a right. Like, your life is not yours. It's been gifted to you by God, and you are the steward of it. And even in the midst of suffering, even in times of trial. And I think, again, Pope John Paul II, his example of dealing with a painful Parkinson's situation, with he who was an athlete and a poet and a lover of life, to be suffering on the world stage in the last 10, 15 years of his life, and didn't just hide away in a home, didn't just, disappear to try to keep his dignity. Like, his dignity was his person in all its frailty, and he allowed the world to see him in that most vulnerable stage to really show people, like, don't be afraid of suffering, don't be afraid of death. Death does not have the final say. My life is not mine to take because I'm dealing with a challenge or a struggle. And even in our day-to-day, euthanasia is really being pushed as something as compassionate, as pushed as something that this will take away suffering. This is the most caring thing to do to help this person end their life. And even that, it's the turn towards the self on my terms. I'm going to give away this gift of life when I am ready. And absolutely, there's different governments and powers pushing this more and more on our cultures.
Yes, we are not God. We do not determine who lives and who dies. And again, I love that we are like guardians. We are stewards of life. And even our own children, our children are a gift from God. They aren't owed to us. And so even their lives are gifts. They're a gift. And so we are just helping them to heaven to be good human beings and to be saints. That's the goal of parenthood. But yeah, every life is precious. Every life is unique and unrepeatable. And what's amazing is that from conception, God has a plan for every single person. How amazing is that? That God knows you, knows every hair on your head, desire of your heart, every thought in your mind, and he loves you and has a plan for you from your conception.
Even the goodness that we exist, because sometimes we drink that utilitarian philosophy that I'm only good if I'm useful. I'm only valuable if I'm useful. And so if that's the case, that, I'm only valuable then I might as well not be of here anymore if I bodily can't function, if I can't be of use.
Yeah, but people think that about children too.
Well, that's the same argument, is like, well, yeah, of course they're useless.
Yeah, they are, because they are dependent on, right? And so are people who are, a lot of elderly are dependent. It's not a bad thing to be dependent on someone. That's not a cause to kill them.
That does not remove the dignity of the human person.
I mean, when you look at people with disabilities, that they are aborted at such a high rate, it's like, are they less human? Because they're more dependent, because there are things they can't do. It's unreal that we would think they don't have the same dignity. That's evil. It's evil to think that people are less of a person, less human, because they aren't as quote unquote useful to society.
Pope Francis said in The Joy of the Gospel that there is nothing progressive about taking a human life. We think sometimes we're so advanced in regards to other times and other cultures, but we really just have thought up these, wordsmithing euphemisms to dance around the fact that we think it's okay to remove the life of people when it's inconveniencing to us, when it's a burden. And we just kind of put that on people like, well, maybe life's better off without you. So back to the church's document, Gaudium et Spes, from the Second Vatican Council. This is paragraph 27. Again, from womb to tomb, everything in between. It writes further, whatever is opposed to life itself, such as any type of murder, genocide, abortion, euthanasia, or willful self-destruction, whatever violates the integrity of the human person, such as mutilation, torments inflicted on body or mind, attempts to coerce the will itself, whatever insults human dignity, such as the subhuman living conditions, arbitrary imprisonment, deportation, slavery, prostitution, the selling of women and children, as well as disgraceful working conditions, where men are treated as mere tools for profit rather than as free and responsible persons. All these things and others of their like are infamies indeed. So, womb to tomb.
So of course we want to fight against laws that are unjust. Right now it's legal to kill the unborn. But also we know that even if there are those laws, that really our hope is that people's hearts will change. I mean, that's the goal. Even the Catechism says this in 1931. No legislation could by itself do away with the fears, prejudices, and attitudes of pride and selfishness which obstruct the establishment of truly fraternal societies. Such behavior will cease only through the charity that finds in every man a neighbor, a brother. So we hope this video helped explain the womb to tomb theology a little better. And if not, then go read the Catechism and it'll do a whole lot better than we will ever.
There's lots of great organizations and resources out there to learn more and to support the different work in respecting life in all stages. And like Jackie said, we work to change laws, but also it's the local, on the ground, hidden efforts that are also so important. One of the best dads I know, he would get up every Saturday at 7 a.m. and go pray outside of the local abortion clinic. Just something he never broadcasted, just something he did. That was his quiet witness week in, week out. A great resource from Ascension on this womb to tomb topic is Connected, which is Catholic social teaching for this generation, really for young people, but anyone, I would say, if you want to look deeper into what the church teaches on pro-life and all sorts of issues of respecting the human person.
God bless you. We'll be praying for you guys. Pray for us, and we'll see you next time.
From all of us at Ascension Presents, God bless.
But it says, such behavior will only cease only through the charity that finds in every man a neighbor, a brother.
Life in all its
barges in
forms.